Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, and joining me once again, as usual, the great Alex Kozora, fresh off a fourth consecutive trip out to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe for Steelers Training Camp. Alex, happy Sunday. You should be pretty tired about now.
I am, and I imagine the players are as well. So good time all around for the off day Monday, and then the real action starts Tuesday when the pads come on. So the ramp-up period is over, and the real football is about to kick off.
Absolutely. And as we're recording this right now, it is Sunday evening, July 28th, 8:15 Eastern time. So before we get rolling, why don't we tell everybody about the sponsor of the special editions of the Terrible Podcast? That would be the one, the only Touring Plans. And Lynn Testa and the folks, tell them about Touring Plans, Alex.
Longtime sponsor of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage, including this year if you're planning a trip to Disney, to either Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, and want the most amount of information to make it the best experience possible. You're going down there with family, maybe in the wintertime when it's cold up here in PA. That's the group, that's the team you want to talk to. Touringplans.com. Get you the best insight on crowd size, the days where it's the busiest, and the least amount of crowd, least impacted crowd, insider restaurant reviews, how to save money on tickets. It's always important, and just overall tips on how to have the best experience at any of the Disney locations. So reach out to them, Len Testa, and also touringplans.com. We thank them for their continued and steady sponsorship of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage.
We absolutely do. We sure do appreciate Lynn Testa and them at touringplans.com. Okay, Alex, as we do, starting off every special edition, a little bit of housekeeping here, talking about who was in, who was out, who might have got dinged.
Yeah, generally pretty healthy team going into the off day, so that's always a good note. Russell Wilson continues to do a little bit more each day. You could almost call him limited today. I still would call him out. He was never put on his helmet, went through some individual work, basically in the individual work where he didn't have to really run or boot out or anything that would have required some mobility. He didn't do, but he did some of the straight dropbacks and was working on the side pretty actively. So Mike Tomlin indicated, as I'm sure we'll get into, that he'll work in team period sometime next week. I think he'll be back Tuesday. That's just my guess, but I understand the headline of starting quarterback misses the first 4 days of practice, but I have really no concern about Wilson, this team being super, cautious. That wasn't Joe Burrow with a calf injury last year that really hampered him into the regular season. So Pittsburgh just being smart, he'll be out there next week.
All right. Let's see. Mike Tomlin said specifically from a health standpoint, no real update on Russ. Worked partially today and expect him to get going a bit as we come off this off day. Rodney Williams has an AC sprain. We'll see how many days that takes for him to get back. We had some bumps and bruises associated with competition. I think all of those that occurred, though, guys came back and finished practice, so it's probably nothing to speak of. He was asked immediately if he expects Russell Wilson to participate in some team periods next week. He said, "That's what I said." Maybe not in that tone. He probably thought it. What do you make of get going a bit as we come off this off day for Russell Wilson?
Yeah, maybe he won't be 100% in the sense of going through every single team period, but he'll have a helmet on next week and he should be working in drills and probably some of the team session. Maybe they would hold him out of the run type stuff where you get more boot action and more play fakes. Maybe they'll be a little careful with that. But again, I have no concern about his health and the injury being more serious than Pittsburgh's painting. I truly believe it is minor. I mean, this guy was working pretty actively today. Again, if you'd watched this guy the first 4 days, and no one told you about the injury, you think he was healthy, largely speaking. So not worried about that. I can't exactly predict the level of participation, but he'll be doing, pretty much full work in some capacity next week.
All right. And obviously, Rodney Williams not out there today. How about you? You did not see Van Jefferson.
I didn't. And I had that thought. It's always hard to see the guys that you don't know are hurt and you're not looking for, is he on the field? You just kind of assume that he is. It was late in practice. And I was thinking about my notes and some of the first team receiver combinations and realized I had not seen number 11. Looked for him during the final team session. Didn't see him. Saw some video of individual work and went through it. And I didn't see 11 in there. So I don't believe Van Jefferson practiced today. Mike Tomlin did not mention him. I don't know if he was on the field. Don't know if it was something off field. But I'll be watching for him on Tuesday. Isaac Seumalo returned to practice after getting the rest day Saturday. Cordero Patterson on the exercise bike and stretch line. Still, of course, on the NFI list. If I had to guess, and again, I'm just guessing, it's still going to be a little bit on Cordero Patterson, probably week and a half, 2 weeks. I mean, I'll just kind of be happy if he's able to play in the second preseason game and be back for the end of camp. That's kind of where I'm at right now on him.
All right, that makes sense there. Okay, we've got that out of the way. Now we shall start with the quarterback position. Justin Fields, obviously, the pecking order: Justin Fields, Kyle Allen, and Plumlee. So, what? Give us the good, the bad, the ugly.
There was a mix of both for Justin Fields. I thought he and the offense was really strong in 7 shots after the defense dominated yesterday. Fields had a really good rep where he looked left to Roman Wilson. He was going in motion, wasn't there, came back to the middle, found Scotty Miller for a touchdown. He was effective and threw multiple touchdown passes. There was a coverage bust where Marquez Callaway got wide open. Easy throw, but actually, I don't know if Fields threw that or if Kyle Allen threw that, but overall, Fields had a couple of touchdown passes, and they had a design quarterback run, which, just for clarification, I will say on the design quarterback runs, if Fields scores, I will give that to the offense, even though still Fields can't be hit. But if it's a design play, we'll count that for the O, and that could be maybe a little hint at some of that package type work. Not that Fields wasn't the starter today, but you think about some of the red zone stuff whenever Wilson gets back, a design quarterback, almost quarterback power looking play to the left on the 2-yard line. That could be stuff that we'll see in the regular season. So that was really good overall, 7 shots. And then in the team period, I thought Fields was far shakier through the first pick of training camp, a duck to Scotty Miller that hung in the air, was way overthrown, and an easy interception by Dante Jackson to take it back the other way. Next play was a play action that went over Jaylen Warren's head. Warren made a great one-handed snag, but it wasn't really a good throw on a screen that disrupted the timing of the play a little bit. And just from there on, I did not think the Fields was super sharp overall. So we saw good, we saw bad. Again, kind of getting that variance of Justin Fields that's been common with him in the NFL.
Let's see. Yeah, I did see a clip of him getting on his horse. Boy, he's got some wheels. And as we talked several times, expect to see a couple of packages, assuming he doesn't start, try to get him on the field in certain situations and, maybe pull some of that stuff out like a read option or just things that'll allow him to use that athleticism and all. So just the one interception on the day.
Yeah, just the one, although Fields, shortly after I think actually the next rep after throwing that pick, he wanted a crosser. I don't know who the receiver was, and Kalen Barnes jumped it and should have picked it. He just dropped it, but that would have been another interception. So you see Fields stacking some of the negative plays, which you really don't want to see. Again, I don't want to make too much out of any one particular practice. And I thought it was a nice start for Fields. I think he's gone through his progressions pretty well from what I'm able to tell in live action, but you saw that shakiness. I thought that he got kind of worse as practice went on.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the running back position next. Anything stick out there?
Yeah, I'm trying to find some things. I might have a little clarity on the pecking order, but there is so much mixing and matching. It feels like Michael P. Ryan is kind of running ahead of Aaron Shamplin and Dejon Edwards and Jonathan Ward, but they're all, of course, getting work. Shamplin did have a drop on a screen that should have been a big play, just maybe a touch low, but certainly catchable, and one that Shamplin needs to have overall. He can't kind of make those sort of mistakes. So minor note, again, pads come on Tuesday, you get the live run period, and that second team period, we'll be able to kind of tell these things more, get backs on backers Tuesday. So that's when the fun will start for these guys. But I do have the initial impression that P. Ryan is seeing a bit more activity, at least ahead of the other backup running backs.
All right, and you tweeted out you expect to see more running back screens in 2024.
I do. Hopefully successful screens. And I think you'll see more success this year with good group of pass catching running backs and athletic offensive line. Seeing a bunch of them in warm-ups, of course, in team periods. I mean, multiple per day. And, Warren had that really nice snag that went for a good gain today. Shamplin, that would have gone for a good gain. So plenty of running back screens. I think it'll be pretty common in this offense.
All right, let's go wide receiver. And how did that get shaken up a little bit? And how did Roman Wilson do following up that nice day that he had on Saturday?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of notes on Roman Wilson. I don't think he got a target today. Seeing one catch on a crosser for about 10 yards today in the third team period. It was fine, but not as gaudy as yesterday. I thought Quez Watkins did well, had a really nice leaping catch and 7 shots in the back of the end zone, went up there and got the football. He's got some height to him. And so offense was really hyped about that. So I thought he made some plays. Des Fitzpatrick's missed opportunities, had one really bad drop. It was wide open left side. I think he took his eyes off the football. Would have been a 20-plus yard gain, just flat out dropped it. So I know that happens from time to time, but a guy like him, not going to be known for exactly, his great receiver skills. Special teams is really his path, but that's a play that he's got to make.
If there was anybody that would threaten pick the top, let's say 4 right now, kind of, and it feels like it's starting to get the fourth one in obviously we don't know what happened to Van Jefferson, but it feels like he's inside the bubble at this point, along with obviously George Pickens, Calvin Austin III, and Roman Wilson. Who feels like if would be a fifth?
Right now, I would lean Scotty Miller. He was getting more first-team reps today with Jefferson not out there, at least as far as I saw. Again, there's so much mixing and matching, especially this first week, as everyone kind of feels things out. I think Mike Tomlin spoke to that a little bit today, but I think the first in warm-ups, not in team, but early in practice, kind of on-air type stuff, it was Pickens and Roman Wilson and Scotty Miller as the top 3, not even Calvin Austin. He would rotate in. So maybe they're just trying different combinations, but felt like Scotty Miller was getting an increase in reps with Jefferson being unavailable.
All right, let's move to the tight end position. Yesterday, you said, "Man, I'm ready to see Darnell Washington take part in the passing game a little bit, or some, or any." And you got your wish, it sounds like, on Sunday.
At least in 7-on-7s. I'd like to see it in team. Does not have, to my knowledge, in charting a target in team periods, much less a reception in team periods. But 7-on-7 did well. Had a corner route to the left sideline, made the catch on, I think it was the safety, Nate Meters, and then a scramble drill a couple plays later. Nice job to get open, getting his quarterback's vision, and toe tap catch for a short game, but still a catch along the right sideline. Earned a lot of praise from coaches. Alfredo Roberts, Zach Cassani, the receivers coach, was showing him some love. So that was nice from him. The tight ends in 7-on-7 were really active overall. Friday made a fantastic juggling catch. Tim Rice has a really good shot of that. It looked like a catch to me. The ref ruled him out, but I'm going to give him the catch anyway. Michael Pruitt, a one-handed snag as well down the seam. So they were active again at 7-on-7, but want to note that. Washington, though, there was a lot of time dedicated today, pre-practice, during different special teams periods in practice, after practice, him working on his pass protection sets, kind of a kick slide. So, he's really done a lot of blocking. So I assume, that is part of it. But I mean, Alfredo Roberts was working with him a ton one-on-one. And then Broderick Jones, after practice, they were going over their pass sets for at least Jones to Washington, going over his pass sets. So that was interesting. I don't know if that suggests maybe some more pass blocking off of play action type stuff for Washington this year.
And plus, I mean, he just needs to be a better blocker. Need to see him improve as a blocker just overall. I mean, obviously, you're talking more about the pass sets there. But, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how that translates once we get into the regular season and looking back to how maybe there were signs of this,
Yeah, I wonder how much pass blocking did he really do last year for a team that didn't do many play fakes? I don't know how many real chances there were for not on boots, but just like actual straight back play action. Probably not much. And so it might be kind of new to him, at least in Pittsburgh. And it's probably worth repping because Arthur Smith's going to do it a whole lot more. Let's
see if I can pull up pass blocks for him real quick. The number of plays that he was in for last year. Pass block for Darnell looks like 1.
Okay, so hardly at all. So that number is going to probably be above 1 after the first quarter.
Wait. That was preseason. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I had
felt a little low.
I had that sorted wrong there. Let me pull up regular season there. Okay, actually 43.
Okay, but not a huge number. Right. And some of those may have been boots that you're kind of just sealing down your guy. It's probably like you're carrying out your run cell where you're washing down, and then the quarterback boots off. That probably goes down as a pass block, I'm guessing, on PFF starting, but you're not actually kick sliding and taking the set like you would an offensive tackle. So I was just seeing Washington work on that quite a bit today.
All right, to give you a rundown on that while I got it pulled up, Darnell pass block, and this includes postseason too, 43, Freiermuth 16, Connor Hayward 11, and Rodney Williams 1.
Okay, so yeah, I think we'll see Washington at least stay in, quite a bit this year.
All right, I apologize for sorting that wrong to start off with there. All right, offensive line, Sayamalo back, but there was a little bit of shuffling still going on, right?
Yeah, in the last team period, I mean, initially I saw, and it was Trey Fautanu came in, what I would call first team right tackle. Dan Moore was at left tackle, and so Broderick Jones was on the sidelines. And I think that period was a lot of mixing and matching. They had some different combinations where a little bit later you were getting like Nate Herbig with some second teamers. So that may have been it. I'm not going to read a lot into it, but Fautanu just getting those right tackle reps. I mean, it's fine to get those right tackle reps first team. And if you see TJ Watson, of course, it's a great matchup, but it's just kind of getting reps no matter who it's against right now in the early going, just kind of getting the muscle memory and working on your punch and Pat Meyer's technique and what he coaches. So a little less concerned about, is he running first team, second team, how many first team snaps is he getting? It's just kind of like just getting those reps no matter where they're at is the important part of it right now. But to me, Dave, the theme of the O-line today was take a lap. I mean, we talked about, and this has happened throughout camp so far, but really focused today is make a pre-snap penalty, a false start, you're taking a lap, you're running the literal, tracing the entire sideline before you can come back in. And all the young guys, almost all the young guys got today. It was in warmups even, this is like 5 minutes in the practice, Tyler Beach, take a lap. And then during the actual team period, Fautanu, McCormick, Anderson Hardy, and Joey Fisher taking laps for penalties. And then Ryan McCollum was a bad exchange between him and Fields under center. And then he took a lap as well. Late in practice, Zach Frazier jumped in to play center. So at one point, Mike Tomlin even quipped, "You're next, Frazier," because all the rookie guys just kept screwing up, making a mistake. McCormick and Fautanu. Frazier, to his credit, was clean, but you got to clean these things up. It's been a pretty recurring issue the first 4 days of practice. McCormick's had multiple false starts. These things got to get cleaned up.
I wonder if I can pull up how many penalties he had. I don't want to spend up a lot of time. Maybe I'll pull it up while you talk about something else here. But speaking of McCormick, pre-practice center exchanges.
Yeah, I probably didn't sell it or didn't paint the picture well enough. I'm trying to quickly tweet sometimes, probably a little too fast for my own good. This was what happens is early in practice, the quarterbacks under Tom Art, they'll take work on some footwork drills. They're all working side by side. They're working on the drops and things like that. They're working on snaps. And so you need 4 centers. It's literally just the center and the quarterback one by one down the line of 4. It's nobody else. It's not team period. It's not skeleton type work. It's just some on the side type of work. And so you have, of course, your 3 main centers who've been working in team, and Nate Herbig, Zach Frazier, Ryan McCollum, Spencer Anderson had been that 4th center. The first couple practices today, it was Mason McCormick snapping to Russell Wilson. He's snapping to Wilson because Wilson's not participating in team. And so you want Herbig snapping to Fields because they're going to work together a lot in practice. You want Frazier snapping to Kyle Allen, and you want McCollum snapping to Plumlee, so they're getting some reps early on in practice. So Wilson sitting out just trying to snap with anybody. And I think McCormick is dabbled in center in the pre-jet process. I think didn't Pittsburgh fly out to there to see him as a center a little bit right before the draft started. So just something to file away. Wouldn't make too much out of it, but we'll see if he gets any sort of center work down the line. But there's a little bit of at least dabbling in that from McCormick.
Let me see if I can pull my weight here a little bit in this show. Last season, according to PFF, I don't have the breakdown of what they were, but at South Dakota State last year, McCormick had 10 penalties, looks like.
So pretty. I mean, he played a lot of football. I don't know how many games they played last year. It's probably a ton because they're always in the playoffs, but that's still a pretty high number of penalties.
Looks like he had 4 in 2022, 4 in 2021, and 2 in each of the years prior to that. And obviously, as we talked, man, he played over 3,400 snaps in college there at South Dakota State. So, all right, something to pay attention to moving forward. Hopefully, all of them, because you waste reps out there when you have those.
You do. Yeah, you do, because generally they don't replay the rep. That's why some of my notes only have 11 plays, because the false start, kills the player, the bad snap kills the play, and they're not, really taking the time to make it up. So again, evaluating actual play without pads on, tough to do. I saw Devery Hamilton, the 13 left tackle, get beat around the edge by Paralis once today, but these are just little moments in time where I don't want to draw a lot of conclusions. The conclusion I can draw is these guys have to clean up the pre-snap penalties, and the threat of taking a lap is a good stick instead of a carrot to make these guys be on their P's and Q's.
All right, when they roll out there for that first preseason game, week from, or I guess it'd be 2 weeks from this past Friday. Starting offensive line, I think we left to right. You expecting Dan Moore, Isaac Sayamalu, I would guess Nate Herbig, James Daniels, and Broderick Jones, I'm guessing, at least in that first preseason game, unless something changes drastically in the next, which, you got a lot of practices that are going to take place before then.
Yeah, barring anything injury related, that should be the 5. And I don't want to say this is the conversation now, but it is worth at least talking about. At what point do we not kind of just assume that Zach Frazier will be the week 1 center? At what point does Herbig really feel like, to us at least, that he's seriously in the mix? I mean, he is. He's been running first team. He's talked about he's working. He's taking this seriously. This is not just him holding the spot until Frazier is ready for week 1. I still would bet on Frazier right now being the week 1 starter, but I'm just curious at what point do we kind of sit there and say, okay, we have to change our expectations and perspective a bit on that position.
Max Starks talked about on the pre, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday, days are running together, about when Marquise Pouncey kind of officially took over during that part of camp and all like that. And I want to say he said like the second or third preseason game is kind of when it happened. Let's see, what year was that? 2010?
10. Yeah. And he was initially at guard in the spring, Pouncey was, and then he moved to center. And it felt to me like he was pretty clearly from out of the gate in camp, the starting center, but I wasn't at camp at that time every day, so I don't really remember that as.
All right. Hartwig opened up that first preseason game as the starter.
Okay.
The second preseason game against the Giants, it was Hartwig starting again. The third preseason game.
This was back when they had 4, so the third was the tune-up game, I assume.
Right. It was Pouncey in the third one.
Okay. So that's the tune-up game, and Pittsburgh generally called the second one the tune-up game. So I guess you could say, to answer it to some extent, if he's still starting Herbig is by the second preseason game, that conversation probably begins to shift some.
All right, we'll have a lot more to talk about when the pads come on next week when it comes to the offensive line. All right, shift over to the defense and the defensive line. What you got there?
Well, like O-line, not a ton until the pads come on. We get some of the 1v1 opportunities next week, and it really feels like football for those guys. Logan Lee still getting work, left defensive end, and some right defensive end as well. Not seeing much of the guys like Jonathan Marshall. Really have not seen many snaps, maybe because he might be the 4th string nose tackle, I think, because I saw 1 rep of him at nose tackle yesterday. In my notes last year, mostly playing nose tackle. You got 3 guys in front, and Benton and Adams and Fehoko. And then, of course, in some periods, you're not running, 3-4 much. You're not in your Okie front. You're running sub package and dime and nickel, 2 defensive linemen set. So it's really been hard for Marshall to get those reps. I've even seen more of guys like Willington Prevlian more than I have Jonathan Marshall. So he's kind of getting squeezed by that. In terms of performance, not a whole lot for me to note today. No one looked terribly impressive or terrible, just a fine day overall for the unit.
Larry Ogunjobi moving around okay, and we haven't really talked, I don't think, any about Braden Fehoko so far in camp.
Foco actually did have one nice play today. I forgot to mention. He beat Joey Fisher, the right guard, and penetrated and got some pressure. I think off a play action, or I forget the exact. I think he forced Plumlee to scramble out to his right and take off. So that was good from him. But yeah, basically third team nose tackle. Good run stuffer. Pass rush will be limited. Ogunjobi's looked fine. He's been healthy. That's been good. He had one, I think, good play against a run today for a short gain. I did want to note yesterday, and again, they're mixing and matching. I said that a lot, but I want to really impress that point. I saw a nickel two defensive lineman package of Benton and Hayward, not Ogunjobi and Hayward. So obviously we'll see Benton rotate in, I assume, but I like that pairing of having those guys, Benton and Hayward. Benton a little more finesse, Hayward a little more power.
All right, how about the guys on the edge, the outside linebackers?
Yeah, one note I want to pass for Jeremiah Moon, and it was against Michael Pruitt at tight end, so it's just not exactly first round right tackle like Fautanu, but a great inside spin move by Jeremiah Moon, and teammates, defensive teammates of Moon, saw that and was hooping and hollering about that. So that was nice to see that from Moon. I want to see him really develop as a pass rusher, and a lot of these guys are doing the inside spin. I don't know if they're getting that from Highsmith or if they're just kind of learning it on their own, but did note that. So we'll see if he busts that out in one-on-one or preseason. Beyond that, Paralis had a pressure, like I said earlier, beat the third team left tackle, Devery Hamilton. Not a ton else to note. Wellshop is kind of the odd man out. He's getting the occasional rep, but Paralis and Kyron Johnson working pretty clearly ahead of him. And then, of course, you have Moon and Herbig and Watt and Highsmith.
All right, and we did kind of wonder if Sunday might be a rest day for maybe a guy like Watt or Hayward, but both those guys were out there, right?
Yeah, they were full. I thought I would have bet you money that one of those guys would have been rested, but I guess with the off day tomorrow, it was a little less important to maybe get some of those vets some rest.
All right, is Moon getting all the second team snaps, or is anybody else going in there and getting some second team reps?
From my knowledge, I mean, from what I've written in my notes, I've not had any notes of anybody other than Moon and Herbig getting second team reps. Maybe somebody would have kicked in there, Paralis a time or two. And sometimes you're getting, second team outside linebackers and first team D line or first team DB. So it's not always quite. It's been interesting. It used to be very clean, clear cut, first team, second team, third team, pretty easy to expect what was coming and who was out there. Over the years, you've seen more kind of mixing and filtering first team and second team, third team. Sometimes Justin Fields will be behind the third team offensive line. So you get a lot of differences out there in training camp in recent years. But to answer your question more succinctly, yeah, I would say that basically Moon and Herbig have been your second team outside linebackers.
All right. Inside linebacker, Peyton Wilson having a good camp, it sounds like. Not overly shocked by that. Mike Tomlin kind of gave him an attaboy about his conditioning after practice and how that's showing up and him running after the football. And I think he knocked one out of Pat Freiermuth's hands after a catch or something like that today. Mm-hmm. How you feeling about this group?
Good. I've been impressed with Wilson. He's been active. The defense was active around the football today, finishing plays, ball searching, as they'll always call out, as Mike Tomlin said post-practice. They had 2 forced fumbles, at least 2 today. I'm pretty sure it was Wilson on Freiermuth and team at the end of the play on a little kind of stick route. And then I don't know who had the other one. It was against Pruitt, though. I think Pruitt recovered it, but it was still nice to see the forced fumble in the finish there. But yeah, Wilson has been really, silent to sideline, good burst. There was one even in 7-on-7. He just missed tipping the ball. It was caught by Jacob Copeland, but Wilson just so quick to close and really kind of squeezing some of those windows that normally would be wider for quarterbacks to throw to. So yeah, it's been good for him. He's gotten some dime linebacker work in some of the third down periods, even some first team work filtering in with Patrick Queen today. So it's been all good news on Peyton Wilson.
Any early impressions on Jacoby Windman, the undrafted free agent out of Michigan State?
Not much. I mean, he's gotten some reps. He had a touch and tag or two, just quote unquote stop today, but there's not been anything super notable there overall, but he has gotten reps. And so that's just the important part for a young guy right now, is to get some play time and make some mistakes and get better and have some tape out there to be evaluated. Tyler Medikevich had a pass deflection on a blitz today. So that was notable. I saw him in team a little bit more than I had the last couple of days. Probably not getting a ton of reps because you kind of know what Dirty Red can do at this point, and he's here for special teams, but he had an impact play in the pass game.
Does it feel like he ever left?
It's the same dirty red, I'm sure. Same, just no nonsense coverage guy. So we'll get that feel, I'm sure, once you can go down there and run down kicks and punts.
All right, Landon Robertson, Queen seem to be communicating good and all. And Queen talked, I think, earlier in the day about, feels like he's played with him for a long time.
Yeah, it seems like those guys are good friends. They came down the stairs together before practice or for practice, to report, then get out there on the field. So, yeah, communication, I think, has been good. The defense has been loud, a lot of chatter, occasional mistakes. There was a coverage bust in 7 shots today that got Callaway wide open. But I think overall the defense has been pretty buttoned up. But they're a more veteran group, and so you would expect that.
All right, the secondary, kind of combine them all together here, corner, safety, and all like that. How about a daily slot update? And we haven't talked a lot about Joey Porter Jr. In the first 3 days.
Yeah, I think
not that it's bad. It's just we kind of know what he is, and there's other guys competing. Obviously, I'm not trying to say where the hell is Joey Porter, but I mean, let's make sure we spend a little time on him today.
Yeah, I don't know if I have many notes today. Hasn't been targeted a ton. I think he got called for DPI once. I'm not 100% sure who the corner was. It was against Pickens down the offense's left sideline, the defense's right. I think it was Porter out there. It's been a lot of Dante Jackson on Pickens. And Tomlin talked about they're not really doing matchups right now. It's kind of more just, focusing on your own technique and, just your own taking care of business on your own end before it becomes more about matchups and evaluation about this guy versus that guy. So Porter had to break up on Van Jefferson yesterday. Looked fine today. I, want to see him in some of those 1v1 settings. It'll be, I think, really fun for him to be challenged by Pickens and whoever else he goes up against. Dante Jackson, the first interception of training camp, that was that floater from Fields. Jackson was not covering Scotty Miller, but got his head around, found the football. Easy kind of basket catch for him. His good camp, I think, has continued overall. Worked out of the slot a little bit. But I shouldn't say out of slot. It's kind of some of the empty sets where you get George Pickens aligned inside, and Jackson will match up as opposed to staying out on the running back out wide. But yeah, Jackson has been good, and it's very early, but it's giving me a bit more confidence about who will be opposite Joey Porter Jr.
All right, any update on the slot rotations and all?
Yeah, it's Beanie Bishop, really first team corner again. Behind him was Josiah Scott and Graylin Arnold. I don't know really who would you call second team, maybe Arnold and then Scott third team, but they're all kind of getting reps there. Cam Sutton has not gotten a ton of reps. I saw him in the third down team period as a dime backer. Same with Ryan Watts. So Cam Sutton has really been just kind of in those packages, and I've not really seen him in some of the traditional nickel type stuff, but even as a slot corner. So I don't know if that's because they just kind of know what he can do, or because they know he's suspended for the first half of the season, and you want to give more unknown guys like Scott and Arnold and of course Bishop extra reps. I'm not entirely sure the reason, but we have not mentioned Cam Sutton too much because he's just not seeing a ton of reps out there.
All right, safety. When Ryan Watts is asked to come on the field in more of a safety role, what's he doing? Where's he lining up?
It's kind of been all over. It's still sometimes hard to distinguish strong and free, and the lines have kind of blurred. He's gotten some of that dime backer work, though, dropping down low. Not the only one to do it. Sutton's done it. Casey's done a bit of it. Nate Meters has done some of it. But Watts, I think, has looked good there and blitzed off the edge a couple times and had some success. Deshaun Elliott had a couple blitzes today where he came in free, and it would have been would-be sacks or clear disruptions, but the play extends. So seeing some more safety blitzes. We'll see if that is something that we'll see more of this year, or if it's just kind of being done as part of practice to give quarterbacks different looks and different run blitzes against play action to see how the offense responds. Want to also note that Corey Trice is really trying to look at him today, and the reps. I mean, he got some reps, but he's kind of been squeezed some. He's splitting time with Thomas Graham and a bit of Anthony Averett. So it was like a guy that is certainly, as of right now, and we've seen in the past, things change very quickly, or all of a sudden somebody else is playing up and getting more reps and the guy's falling behind. But Darius Rush, Kalen Barton's getting far more. They're getting consistent second team corner reps. And Trice is just trying to get a couple of 13 reps in there.
All right. How about a special teams update for this Sunday? And tell me about that Cameron Johnston punt that hit the pylon and all.
Yeah, it was kind of more funny to me than it was to sit there and say like it was an amazing punt, but it was just kind of a crazy kind of moment where they're punting. The line of scrimmage is the 21, but what I tweeted was Johnston from the 10 because he's literally like physically punting from the 10. So just to kind of paint the picture of where he actually booted the ball, it landed around, I think, the 30 or 35. Scotty Miller let it go. And then he's kind of just watching it bounce and see if it's going to roll into the end zone. And it just kept skipping and bouncing and rolling until just so perfectly knocking over the front right pylon, which is actually going to be a touchback. So it's not exactly a great outcome overall from that aspect of it. But it's just funny to see a guy basically punt from the 10, a ball that is able to just so sweetly knock over the pylon on the other end zone. That's just kind of a funny moment. But he's punted well. I mean, again, we're not getting rush, and it's not really, I mean, it's not NFL environment, but what he's shown in these 2 days has been, I think, pretty solid. Hang times have been consistent. Not many shanks. There's maybe been one mishit ball out of the, 20 that he's hit so far. So that's been good.
Any field goal work today?
None today. No actual formal field goal work. Hopefully we get. I'm waiting for kickoffs, man. I've been like every day, like every special teams period, I'm like perking up, going, okay, is this kickoffs right now? And it has not happened yet. I think it's got to happen Tuesday. I would like to think so. So been waiting for that, but it's been a lot of focus on punt type stuff.
All right. How about rewind the 7 shots for us? And there was some controversy evidently on one of them. I guess figure that out yet.
Yeah, I had it 6-1 for the offense. Apparently, the first play, a handoff to Najee Harris out of the gun. It looked like he scored. I think the ref said he scored, but apparently some of the reporters on field said that Mike Tomlin overturned it. So I guess we'll give the win to the defense there. Next one was that Fields looking left for Wilson on kind of a jerk motion coming to his right and then sprinting back out like the old AB kind of 2-point plays that he would do, a little bit like that. That wasn't there. He comes back, finds Miller back of the end zone. Good play by Fields and Miller. Next one was that design quarterback run to the left for Justin Fields for a touchdown.
That feels unfair.
It does. That's why I scored generally the scrambles as defensive wins, but this was the true and blue design quarterback run. I saw them do it in warmups, and so this was definitely the Fields package type stuff there. Next one was Fields looking for Pickens, back right corner. Fitzpatrick and Porter were there. Really no chance that Pickens making the play. That was incomplete. Kyle Allen comes in. This was a great leaping grab by Quez Watkins back of the end zone for the touchdown. 6th play, there was the coverage bust. Callaway wide open, touchdown for him from Kyle Allen. And then the 7th one, like the first play, probably just, inside zone, whatever it was, duo run to Michael Pirine, the running back who did score this time. So we'll call it 5-2 win for the offense, which was good after the defense won 6-1 on Saturday's practice yesterday.
All right. Anything else to add from Sunday out there at Saint Vincent College?
Let me just double check my notes. Want to thank our Tim Rice for the great photos again. I think we kind of basically covered it all in terms of what I have in my camp recap summary section. We hit on everything there. So excited for the pads to come on Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely. All right. You and I will have a full version of the Terrible Podcast Monday morning. You will be back out there at St. Vincent Tuesday morning, and probably a little bit earlier in the evening, the next, which would be the 5th edition of the special edition of the Terrible Podcast. So until then, as always, you can follow me on Twitter /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, you can find the ad-free button on the site and follow the directions for that as well. So until the next special edition of the Terrible Podcast, which will be Tuesday evening, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024 with Dave and Alex.